Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
So it is September 1st, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Catherine White, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action, and we're amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done and, yes, to make politics fun. So today's theme is all about summer loving and heating it up for workers' rights. So I want to say hello to our guests, and they were going to tell us more later, but I want to give them a wave. First, give a big wave to Chelsea Bland. She's president of the Metropolitan DC chapter of a coalition of labor union women. Hello, Chelsea. We're glad you're here all the way from DC. Glad to see you in the room. And the next guests are from the Washington Mid-Atlantic Local of the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. And I'd love to say hello to Catherine Clavana, president of the Washington Mid-Atlantic Local, and also to Wanda Underdew. She's on the national board. She's a member. Great to see you. And also she's on Veep. She was on Veep and House of Cards. So we have, these folks are actors and actresses, and they're they're producers, voiceover, they do it all. So with them, they brought their strike captains. I'm so excited to meet them. Gabriel Kornblue, give a wave, a local board member as well. And also Elliot Bales, local board member and strike captain. Welcome. In film and theater yourself, great action to see you guys, to really look at their bio. It's really fun. And then, you know us, it's a spotlight in Virginia. It's all about our election. We never stop. We have Monty Mason will be here from Senate District 24. He's a candidate there. And a special sweet guest that we just love. She's a badass too. Jessica Anderson from House District 71 and a TikTok sensation. We love to have her in the room with us, and we're going to make sure she wins. All right. So before I get started, some housekeeping. The rules of the road are, we use our chat. You're going to see our guests using the chat. We're going to play a trivia game today, so you'll be using our chat. And we want to make sure, though, you keep it civil. If not, the bouncer up there, the ambassador above stair, will kick your butt out of the room. That's what she does, and she enjoys doing it. So anyways, and the after chat. We love the after chat. At 1 p.m. today, it may go over a little bit, but at 1 p.m. we start our after chat, and you will want to stick around because we're going to be talking about the election, some things you can do, things that are going on, and we're really going to get that heated up. So awesome. And lastly, we never like to forget ourselves. And we are part of, you can subscribe to our show by being a Patreon. And that means you can come in at $5 a month, 10, 25. And we thank you for those in the room that do support us. That's how we keep the lights on. And it's really important that we have that extra money to pay for our stuff from the Zoom and all the stuff that you see. We do this 7 days a week. So this is awesome to have that support. All right. Woo, hot summer. I'm all heated up. So I am ready to go. And this favorite part of the show, I want to spotlight my bestie. Where are you at?
Can you see me?
I can see you. Hi. Well, I'm so excited. So for now, I've been thinking about a few things. So I was thinking you can tell me more, but I just want to set this up first about, I want to make sure that we know there's a lot going on. We are witnessing still across the country, in some places, even in Virginia, some hateful stuff, the anti-woke, anti-Black history, anti-truth, anti-LGBTQ, language and threats. It has led to violence and death. Recently in Florida, we had the murders of Black people targeted by a Nazi. The murder of her mom in California over the rainbow flag. And I want to set that up just to talk about it because it's really important when our democracy is at risk and we're defending it, that we're in this election ourselves, to remember what's on the line, when we're talking about why it's important to stand up, like the unions do for workers' rights. And it's really, trying to put people in the seats that have the dignity and respect of other people. So I just wanted to say, as 67 days out from the election, we have a really great opportunity in Virginia to create a more just, equitable, and inclusive Virginia. So I have to set that up for you because I want to know what's on your mind and what we can do about it when we're thinking about Virginia and this election ahead of us.
Yeah, it's really powerful when you sort of hear all of that together. It sort of stops you in your tracks for a minute. But I think that's the power of a show like this, is that when we hear all of these things, you sort of feel like, okay, am I powerless or am I not? And I think that what we want to demonstrate is that this is where the power is, that this is where the disruption is. It's because we're coming at these issues right from the ground up. And it's so interesting to me. I got a chance to hear someone pretty wonderful last night. Her name is Robin Warner. We were on a call. And one of the things that she said about, you know her. And one of the things that she said about us, and that is everybody who is on this call today, is that we are the disruptors. We are the ones who will make change happen because we're bringing it from the ground up. And I think that is so important because this is where these ideas are born. This is where postcards were born. This is where all of these different kinds of tactics and strategies are born so that we can actually take it. And I'll say one other thing that really frustrates people sometimes, and that's the money game. And we were having a chat about that is, we're always thinking we're being outspent. We have to ask for money. Candidates need money, but they shouldn't feel like, oh my God, if I don't have as much money, I'm just going to die. The point is that money has diminishing returns. It is the enthusiasm of us. It is the enthusiasm of our friends and neighbors. It is the enthusiasm of the people on the ground. That's what wins elections. So that makes me feel better.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about that. I think one thing I want to make sure that people in this room are candidates and people working on elections, and we talked about, we experienced in elections prior that too much sending emails, panicking people and giving them negative vibes. And we also learned, that turns people off and they unsubscribe to your emails.
Yeah. So I unsubscribed to one today. I unsubscribed to one today. I did. I did.
Yeah. We need to keep in the positive because we saw the technique of the red wave. We talked about, we were able to actually be one of the first groups to really send it out to people to say this red wave is just trying to psych you out. So we know that we have to stay loud and proud. We Democrats, this is what we do. We defend democracy. We care about, we get into elections. We want to make sure our voice is heard and things are fair. So when I see the money panic, I'll be at events and like, I need money. Of course we need money. But we also had Laura Stokes on, who was the campaign manager for Saddam, and Saddam, who won his primary, he was outspent 6-1. And she said, it's not always money. It's how you use money. It's how you're strategic. And it's how you treat your volunteers, everybody. It's how you build your community and your enthusiasm, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like to say, especially around the money and how we spend it, it's also how you reframe the conversation. And so I love it. There's a campaign that I'm working with and we're talking about, there are things that we do that are homemade. And what we say, and we reframe that by saying, you know what, this is a campaign from the ground up. We're not going to waste your money. We're going to put your money on the things that matter. And so we're scrapping. And but the most important thing is people's enthusiasm and engagement. And I think the last point that I would make is we love having candidates. Candidates are wonderful, and they give so much to be part of a campaign.
Yes.
Also, in this election, the issues are as big. Democracy is bigger than any person. So we just have so many things to be thankful for with our candidates and the issues that are relevant and important to everybody.
Yeah, I agree. We can do both things. And I know that postcards is definitely part of that because we can do it. We can really scale up with those. And I disagree with that. We know we can outsmart all the money, and we've done it before, and we've had all the money and haven't done well when we forget our values, in the race where Terry McAuliffe, bring up his name, he had a lot of money. It wasn't money. There was, there's campaign 101 things you have to do to get your issues in front of voters and how you message. There's a lot to this that we cover every day we talk about this. And we all know that there's panic in the disco sometimes. And then we have to get ourselves look around and say, okay, what are we doing? Let's get in front on the offensive. I heard a good story today from a campaign person, and I won't get into details, but they were able to drop lit before their opponent. And now about the candidate who is a Democrat, Trish Whiteboard, that's running, and we're able to drop it. The voters have never been contacted in this new district, but they dropped it and they got it out there and they got it in front of everybody. And now the other side's panicked because this is how you get in front of it, you get on the offensive, and you really spend that money strategically, and that is amazing. But what we do know, the other side does have a lot of money. We saw in Loudoun a lot of flyers being put out about early voting, but we're doing a lot. We can't forget what we're doing. We got to stick and move, and when we need to. But it is like today, if I can remind people what we're going to be doing, early vote is only in a couple weeks. What are you doing around early vote? What can you do? One thing you could do is put a yard sign in your yard now. We're going to have those for purchase too, where you can talk about voting, early voting, or defending democracy, or why you're voting and why you're voting for Democrats. You could also get your people together and have a party at the poll on early voting. Whatever day works for you, get your people out voting. And this is what we need to do. And so I will zip it, but that's last words.
So last word, 15 seconds, start counting. Okay. So there is actually a district in rural Virginia, and rural ground game and a whole bunch of other Democrats were part of this. And so there was a candidate that Youngkin sort of just dropped in without much notice. And they had a person that they all worked together to write in the vote for this candidate. They did it through text messaging. They probably should have gotten 5% of the vote, but they got almost 20% with the write-in. So that just tells you the power of enthusiasm. And if I could just tell you, which I will in the after chat, about the thank yous that they got from folks who got the text messages and said, yeah, I'm going out and I'm going to vote. So that's the power that we have. That's how we disrupt.
Yeah, I like it. I want to be the disruptor. We're going to have a whole show of disruptors on. Oh, I know one who's coming on, Rachel Bitterkoffer, who's going to be on September 29. Talk about a disruptor. And then next up, let's talk about a good, what do you call, not a disruptor, but a bringer together. LUISA Boyarsky is here talking with our Grassroots update. And we're excited to have you back because let's talk Virginia and all the good stuff that's going on. Thank you, LUISA.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to see everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. What I want to do is just piggyback off of what you just heard from Catherine and from Fanal. Early voting's coming up, right? And we have a lot that we need to cover. But most importantly, we want it to be fun, right? So let's start with the fun. How do we encourage people to go vote early? We know that Republicans are trying to take this tactic away from the Democrats. Democrats were getting all of those votes in early in the last maybe 10 years or so. Republicans now know this is a great way to bank your votes and to save resources getting closer into the election time. So we want to make sure that we are on top of it this year, and we're doing it through vote early parties. So I'm going to put two examples of vote early parties into the chat. One is happening in Virginia Beach, and it's called Come On Barbie, Let's Go Party. You just voted early. So, I mean, why not combine wearing pink and your I voted sticker and getting a beer with your friends? So please, if you're in the Virginia Beach area, we hope you will join them. There's also going to be a voted early happy hour out in Loudoun County, which is going to be spectacular as well. But if you don't have one of these events already organized in your location, please do it, and share it with us so that we can, at a future power lunch, let people know, hey, we're coming together, we're going to go vote, and then we're going to go party. right? And enjoy the fact that we have a democracy where we get to have a voice. So step one is, if you don't already have a fun plan for voting early, make one and invite your friends, especially those friends who are not your political friends, those friends who you hang out with for other reasons. Encourage them to come and vote early. The other thing we want to make sure we're doing is informing voters. Some of the things we need to make sure they know are: one, where and when they can vote early. So that's different for every location. So make sure you find out for yourself and then share it with your neighbors and friends. Two, the impact of redistricting. Some people are going to be in new districts. They may have new people on their ballot they haven't heard of before. How are you just, sending an email out or texting your friends and saying, hey, you might not know already, but in my location, Adele McClure is going to be running for our new House District 2. Let me tell you, I know her. I really think she's going to be fantastic for the state of Virginia and for Arlington specifically. Please contact me if you have any questions, right? So how are you letting people know what's new on their ballot? Three, party affiliations of local candidates, right? If you've got school board members or other people who are local candidates, people don't know which party they're part of. And especially for early voting, we're not sure how many local Democratic committees are going to be out there already with sample ballots. So that means some of those early voting days, people may not know, wait, who is the person I'm supposed to be voting for? Who is aligned with my values? So again, help educate people about who's on their ballot, who represents Democratic values. And then lastly, if people are voting by mail, please make sure to remind them about the witness signature. This is something that is an ongoing issue in Virginia. We've tried to get rid of it. It is still there. Please, please remind people that they have to get a witness signature. Otherwise, their ballot doesn't count. So, of course, the best way to do all of these things I just suggested, you can do it on social media, you can do it on email, but most importantly, do it on the doors. So I'm going to put in a lot of different options for canvassing during September. I am encouraging and challenging everybody on this call to pick at least one of these weekends of action. They are all being led by grassroots groups, and I want to make sure that we are getting on the doors to support our candidates. The sooner we can let people know that they can vote early, the better. The sooner we can log those votes for the Democrat in the race, the better. So in the chat, you will find a very long list, which apparently is too long, so I will cut it down and put it in pieces. All of those options. During this power lunch, please sign up for at least one of those canvassing weekends. Just to let you know, some of them are going for Josh Thomas in Manassas, and that's this weekend. Then Josh Cole and Josh Griffin on September 23rd. We've got canvassing for Nathan McKenzie and groups and other campaigns in his area on September 9th. On September 16th, we've got canvassing in Leesburg for Russet Perry. And then September 30th through October 1st, we're going to be canvassing for Karen Jenkins down in even south of Virginia Beach. So we want to make sure we're getting people out on these doors. These are all key races that, based on current data, show are toss-ups. We have got to get in there, and we've got to make sure people know who these candidates are and get excited about voting for them. So that is what I have for you. I know you're going to highlight a power pack later in the show, which is also just a fantastic power pack with Monty Mason and Jessica Anderson. And Monty's Senate seat is so critical for us to hold blue to make sure that we continue to have that majority in the Senate. So that is another really important set of races to be supporting during September, but throughout the election cycle.
Yeah, did we mention we're going down to Virginia Beach September 30th, right? That's our boots on the ground. Okay, good. And then lastly, hey, I'm surprised. I have a real quick question. Our budget thing on September 6th, what's your read on that? Youngkin's calling people back to the General Assembly about the budget. Do you have any news about that, or what we should be looking for?
Yeah, so I sent out at least what I've heard. I haven't done a huge deep dive into it. Kay Corey had sent out an email basically saying they came to an agreement. For the most part, they're happy with, what things look like. And the goal is to go and vote it in so that we can move forward. I guess the only thing to do is, if you are concerned, definitely check in with legislators who are part of the conference on this, and just say, if there's anything you're a little worried about. I'm constantly worried about, public education budget issues. That was something that I know they were working really hard on, but I know that also that specifically the Senate conferees would not have agreed on something that they don't believe in. So I'm sure it's
an election year, right? Election year. I think this was really interesting, and it really took so darn long, and people didn't have the stability around their budgets and so on. So hopefully that will, do some good. I was thinking, do we need to be down by the gate with some signs? I'm just saying. Anyways, thank you, Luisa. Anything else before we move on? And I'm so glad to see you.
Yeah, last thing is just we will be having our coalition meeting on September 10th. And so I guess probably next Friday, I'll just make sure to share that link. If people are not already receiving my email, I'll have a link so that you can sign up to attend the coalition meeting. That's if you want to get more involved into some of the strategy around the elections, but we'll be having a deeper dive into what we're all doing for early voting.
I love it. No, yeah, join the coalition. That's the place to do, especially if you want to work in the capacity around the elections. This is great. So thank you, my friend. Good to see you. And we'll see you at the meeting. Yeah, so exciting. It's getting hot. It's getting hotter. We're getting heated up. I love it. And so I wanted to start this show out with talking about what we like to talk about, which is the power of women in a lot of leadership roles. And when we talk about that, Chelsea Bland, it's great to see you, because you're president of the Metropolitan DC chapter of the Coalition of Labor Union Women. And if you get a clue, you got a clue. What? Let's start. Yeah, we get a clue. It is about women leading. And I know one thing I've noticed is, obviously, let's talk first about Clue and a little bit of the mission around it and its founding. And then I'd like to play a trivia game with our audience.
Of course, I love good trivia. So thank you all so much for having me on this program. This is fantastic. So as you mentioned, with the Coalition of Labor Union Women, we want to have women and femmes at the forefront of the labor movement. And so we're actually coming up on 50 years of our organization. So our 50th anniversary is actually next year. So we were founded in March in 1974. At a convening in Chicago. And so more than 3,000 women came together and really outlined what our core principles or objectives are as the Coalition of Labor Union Women. And that is empowering the participation of women and femmes in all levels of the labor movement. So we certainly want to see, women at the highest levels of organized labor. And of course, we can see that with our president of the AFL-CIO, Liz Shuler. And we also want to organize the unorganized. We want to promote social and economic justice in the workplace. And we want to encourage the increased participation of women and femmes in the legislative and political arenas. And so while we are, a nonprofit, and we don't, outright endorse candidates, as you all were talking about, the importance of early voting, the importance of get out the vote, voter education, those are the areas in which we will focus more on. But, these are our core principles and our core values. And so, with our Metro DC chapter of Columbia, but also Northern Virginia, I actually live here in Arlington. And so union women who are in DC, who are in Northern Virginia, and even some parts of Maryland, we welcome folks actually across the country, right, to become members of the Coalition of Labor Union Women.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, it seems like to me, it's like organizing within an organizing, organization that organizes people, but it's very important. And I'm assuming this is why, talk to us real quickly, like, why do you think women realized they had to do this? Why did they have to form this organization? I just in general, there must have been a lot of things not being attended to without that kind of organization, keeping it, focused on women, what women's issues were.
Of course. I mean, we can see that, then, and we can see that now, right? So issues that, primarily impact women and femmes, in some ways weren't being addressed, right, in the labor community. and also like in society at large. And so to be able to come together as working women inside and outside of the labor movement to be able to advocate for those issues is really huge. And so, this is something that we continue to do to this day, right? So, even inside of the labor movement, sometimes we're, our labor folks are like clutching their pearls when we're talking about abortion, right? And you all just had a program about that last week. And so these are the issues that, an organization like CLUE can, really be advocating for, particularly inside of the labor movement. We can talk about reproductive health and reproductive justice. We can talk about issues that impact all workers, right? So paid family leave, paid medical leave. You'd be surprised at how many workers actually don't have paid sick leave or don't have paid parental leave and things of that nature. And so it's critical for us as an organization to be able to advocate for those things and support the work that other groups of working women and femmes are doing, right? Support the work of organizations like the National Domestic Workers Alliance, right? Where domestic workers have virtually no rights on the job, right? And so supporting, efforts to get a domestic workers bill of rights to be able to get basic, rights on the job. So these are the things that are really important to us. They're important to our local chapter. We've worked with the local chapter of the National Domestic Workers Alliance. They recently got their domestic workers bill of rights passed through the DC City Council. So these are issues that are important. And so we want to be able to highlight those that we may not see in sort of like mainstream organized labor.
Right, because a lot of women, and we see that during the pandemic, how many women really were affected by that, especially domestic workers, hotel workers. So women are in these jobs, so the union is really a great place to be for people and generally for women because they're in these kind of unprotected jobs, like you said sometimes. So what I would like to do, first, I think you should do a shout out with, you told me Virginia Diamond was your picket bestie. And she's president of the Northern Virginia Labor Federation. I know she's in the room of the AFL-CIO. And when you told me that was just awesome because she recommended we have you on the lunch. So she's out there.
Exactly. Yes. Hello, Jenny. Thank you so much. So Jenny's the reason I'm talking to you all today. And I'm telling you, I met Jenny last year at a Starbucks picket in November. I talked to Jenny for 5 minutes and then she was like, hey, we're going to have a rally next month. You want to speak? And I was like, oh, okay. And so I've been seeing Jenny on the picket line ever since with ATU workers, transit workers, striking in Loudoun County, to all over the place. Jenny and I, we catch up, we were in DC with the Moon Rabbit workers for workers who were, just abruptly laid off by a hotel restaurant in DC. So Jenny is great. And I also want to call out Debbie Soretti, who's also a member of DC CLUE and is the executive vice president of the American Postal Workers Union. So, and Jenny is a member of our DC chapter as well. So it's so great to see those folks on.
It's fun. It's fun, the intersection of all. With that, let's do a little fun ourselves. Let's put up the trivia game because that'd be a great note to end on. And here is the rules of the road for this. For our audience, like we talk about the chat, we're going to use the chat, and our first 3 people that hit the chat with the correct answer, you will get mailed to you our new fun and fabulous stickers that were created by the Shenandoah Group about Democrats Defend Democracy Vote. So let's see if we have some labor movement smarties in the audience. So with our first question, Chelsea, let's go to it. And since it's your trivial game, I'll let you read it. Go right ahead.
All right, let's do it. Okay, question number 1. This iconic labor leader co-founded the National Farm Workers Association and led organized efforts for the Delano grape strike. The strike lasted 5 years and obtained fair wages and working conditions for farm workers. Si se puede. All right, and so we have our options here. The chat's blowing up. It's like covering my screen here. Everybody knows the answer to this one.
There we go. And let's see it. I think it's already lighting up the chat. And there it is. Dolores Huerta, the civil rights icon. I love it. And how about some applause from that? Do we have any applause in that? So if you got C right, the first 3 people will take those winners. I can't read myself, but we'll tell you at the end if you are the winner. Next up. Let's do it. Second question.
All right. So our second question, who is the co-founder and executive director of the National Domestic Workers Alliance? This nonprofit organization works to bring quality work, dignity, and fairness to the growing number of workers who care and clean in our homes.
Woo! We got a lot. We got a toss. We got a lot of A's and B's. A lot of A's and B's.
I know.
Well, a lot of people know because Jess Morales was actually at one of our women's summits, but that's not the correct answer. It is A. Agent Boo. Great. Okay.
Exactly.
I love it. She's the president of the National Domestic Workers Alliance. Awesome. All right. Any applause up there and get to our next one. Okay, thank you. Lastly, trivia question 3.
All right. So our last question. This politician, writer, activist, artist, poet, and transgender activist made U.S. history in 2017 as the first Black openly trans woman to be elected to office.
All right.
I see some right answers coming in.
Some answers. Let's see. Oh, I love it. Some people fast on the gun. And the answer is Andrea Jenkins, Minneapolis City Council member. And if you said C, your finger was fast on the chat button, because we know Danica is the first transgender elected in Virginia, but she's not the first Black person of color. So awesome. I love it. And to our winners, you will get this wonderful stickers that were created in the Grassroots sent to you. So thank you, Chelsea, for being here. Great to be in community with you, and good luck. I know you're helping with the strikes. The folks that are coming up next, I know you're part of that community and you'll be working on the line with them. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're working the clock now, so I want to make sure we go straight to our next segment, and I am so excited. This next segment will be all about the SAG-AFTRA, and we talked about that. There's 2 great unions, American Labor Union, Screen Actors Guild, and the American Federation of Television Radio Artists, but we're focusing on the Washington Mid-Atlantic Local. And there's something about, we were laughing about this, Catherine and Tawanda, is that when we deal with unions or DC, it's all acronyms and just like, it's just crazy, right? So I would like to start off with you, the president of Catherine Clavana, the president. You're also in the biz. You do voiceovers. They say you're, I loved when I was reading about you a little bit. You do what was the voice that launched 1,000 campaigns. All of you are in the biz, as we say. So let's hear your voice and set up what is going on when we're looking at this strike and what people need to know about it. Give us the background on what's happening, and then let's hear we'll go around the room here and talk to everybody.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're thrilled to be here as we head into Labor Day weekend. Just to give you an idea, so we had 2 unions, SAG-AFTRA and Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television Radio Artists. We merged in 2012. We now have 160,000 members nationwide. Our local spans Maryland, Virginia, DC, West Virginia, and North Carolina. So we have about 5,000 members. That includes, actors, broadcasters, hosts, audiobook narrators, but we have of those 5,000, about 3,500 actors. We've got many contracts, right? We do commercials, we do audiobooks, we do corporate videos. So the only contract that's struck is our sort of prestige contract, which is the TV theatrical contract. Our contracts are up every 3 years. We entered into negotiations with our bargaining partner, the AMPTP, in June. We were not able to come to an agreement, and Tawanda represented us on the negotiating committee, so she can speak sort of specifically to the issues. But just to kind of give you an overview, this is a historic fight. The last time the Writers Guild and a SAG were out on strike together was 1960, and that was over residuals and health insurance. Now we are fighting for economic issues and for tech issues like AI, which is an existential threat, and we're really fighting for the survival of our profession. Streaming has upended the industry. The structure of the industry has completely changed. So our financial compensation model has really taken a hit. And so, we're saying, look, the terms of the agreement, the terms of the contract really have to change to reflect that. I just want to say personally, and all of us, we're all local elected officials. We're speaking really here today as from personal experiences, right? We're not representing the union officially, but I've been a member of SAG for nearly 40 years. Wow. And I believe it's harder than ever to make a living as a professional actor. Without transformative change, there might not be a career path forward for future performers. Before, earlier today, I checked my earnings statement for the year. I also do on-camera work. I was in a House of Cards episode. My residuals this year totaled $8. That's like about 5 or 6 checks. One of those checks was for 4 cents. So that kind of gives you an idea of how hard it is to piece together a living and make our earnings that we need to qualify for health insurance and pension credit and all of that.
Yeah. And before I go to Tawanda Underdo and the strike captains, I am curious. It seems like too, when everybody has the eyes on LA and New York, and here we are in DC, actors, people entertainers are everywhere. There's so many jobs in this. It seemed like it just got more powerful. I feel like when we really do talk about this hot labor summer, that, then everybody was striking together, which made it more powerful. The writers, you see actors on the line, you see everybody on the line. And I'm interested in that, like what's going on now. And I don't know who wants to speak to that, but where we are in the negotiations, maybe that's Tawanda, maybe she can update on that. But it just seemed like it really has exploded. And what we see this year with a lot of unions, there's something in the water that's affecting everybody's wages. And AI is one of these threats, I think, to a lot of industries, and even teachers wondering if their kids are writing their papers. It's really kind of a societal change, right?
Absolutely. And I think Gabriel really, I just want to say this, we really feel like we are in the zeitgeist of, middle-class workers across the country, or a lot of these are the same issues that everybody is sort of struggling with. But specifically the labor piece of it, he's really got the finger on the pulse of what's happening this summer. So
let me just say this here to this group. I want you to feel free to unmute yourself, and you guys know each other the best to really kind of facilitate the conversation. I mean, I really feel like you guys know what you want to talk about. So Gabriel, Kornblue, is so welcome. You're a local board member, and you're also a strike captain. This sounds really cool, by the way. Elliot, you really look like a strike captain too. Like I would be like afraid. I'd be like, yeah, strike captain. So I just want to say hello to everybody first and just go at it. Gabriel, tell us from your perspective what people need to know.
Absolutely. Well, just to pick up there, first of all, it's amazing to be here on this podcast. I have a feeling that some of the talking points I don't need, everyone here probably is pretty well aware of in terms of, NLRB filings and union drives are up at historic levels. Interest in unions and in card counting and how one organizes their workplace is at historic levels. And we're seeing, as you're saying, there's something in the water. Hot labor summer is coming to an end. I like to say we're just moving into we will win winter, and it's just going to continue from there. Ooh. But I think what's important to highlight, and I'll use an example of on Tuesday, I got the wonderful opportunity to speak at the AFL-CIO's State of the Unions event with President Liz Schuler and Fred Redmond and AFT President Weingarten. And I'm going to highlight a stat that was the centerpiece of this conference, which is 88% of people under 30 approve of unions. That's almost 9 out of 10. And I think it's important to highlight how much this makes sense, right, for younger generations, for millennials, as we see all these stats all over our news feeds all the time, that younger generations hold a lot less wealth than older generations. The lack of physical and tangible community building during the pandemic. I think for generations like mine, I'm 37, but millennials waiting for our politicians to take action in a way that feels tangible, and sort of a general disillusionment, and a return to the idea that working with your colleagues and grassroots efforts is what's going to get it done, and what's going to improve our livelihoods and our ability to live happily and healthily. And also younger generations connecting to the idea that labor unions and economic justice is racial justice, it's environmental justice. So all of these things coalescing to, and having unions right here to really help build this together and become in vogue again. This is our history. Unions are our history. And so to return to that has felt really powerful. I think a lot of us have felt this bubbling for a long time. And as you said, I'll just finish by saying, we've gotten a lot of feedback at SAG-AFTRA as, really helping be the tip of the spear for exposure for storytelling, which obviously we're a union of storytellers, to sort of spread the idea of the union difference and really perk up folks to understanding that, hey, unions can connect. Social media is our friend. We can all strike together. We can all work together to, to fight the gross inequality that's happening, and also help everyone who doesn't know what a union is, who's never been exposed to this before, start to get curious, start to learn, and start to enter the fray with us.
Nice. I love that. And, when I was looking at that Gallup poll that just recently fell, was 70% side with the union and with the writers' strike. So that's really big. Tawanda, we haven't heard from you, and I want to make sure, and then we'll get over to Elliot, what your part in this and what's on your mind, what you want people to know about the strike, what's important. I'd love to have your voice in this, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is an awesome time that we're having here, being able to, collaborate together and share interests. So as the TV Theatrical Negotiating Committee member here, representing the Washington Mid-Atlantic, the only one in the area, it was really powerful to be in the room, sitting across the table from the AMPTP. And if you don't know, that's the Motion Picture and Television Producers. So literally they're on one side of the table and we're on the other. We were able to give presentations on all of the proposals that were presented to them, and to just get real-time reactions from them, just how unreasonable they were with the very reasonable requests that we had. It was just extraordinary. We were forced into this strike. We did not want it. Of course, we want to work, but until they bring a fair, reasonable offers to the table for us so that our workers can make a living wage, then, there's really nothing to say. Interesting enough, in the last few days, they're in negotiations with the WGA, the Writers Guild, and they have hired a crisis management PR firm from the DC area to kind of manage what's going on, because all of the things that they're putting out about SAG-AFTRA and our sibling union there, the public is seeing straight through that. And they know that everything that they're putting out is backfiring on them. So now they're in crisis mode. So that's what's extraordinary. Yeah.
They're going to DC for that kind of, they're used to it politically. I'm curious, at the table, like you said, are you trying to say what they're trying to make side deals with different parts of different unions, or that just in general, overall, their offers aren't acceptable? Are they trying to sort of leak information out, or what's their tactic, do you think, and kind of the next step now that you think they're going to take?
Well, initially, when we started our negotiations, we had a media blackout just so that we could just be, together. But they were leaking information every week. I mean, and when we spoke with their chief negotiator, she said, "I can't control them." Yeah, that was the response. And when we told them that we were potentially going to strike, they said we were uncivilized for even thinking to do that. They literally said that. And that tells you the kind of mindset that they have. Now, our concerns are just, and Catherine spoke on some of the things, we talk about revenue sharing, because everything's moving a lot from network to streaming, the streaming platforms. And there are no kind of safeguards around it because the technology is new. And we're just asking for 2% of revenue sharing. And they said that was unreasonable. Maybe they could give us 0.1% or something like that. I mean, they're trying to say that all of their businesses are bankrupt, but they're telling their shareholders they're making billions, but then they tell us they have no money. We just wanted our minimums to increase to, combat the inflation that we're having. Right. We just want, we're talking about residuals, as Catherine was saying. Yeah, I've gotten some of those checks as well for a few cents. And you think someone who's a lead on a series, even on one of these streaming networks, they come back with a residual check of $10 or something. And people think that they're rich, all of that. And even some of the contracts that they're given, they will have them under a contract where they can't work with anyone else for a period of time. But then when they go on hiatus, they don't tell them when they're coming back to work. So they could be out of work 5 or 6 months and they're beholden to one company. And they're like, oh, well, it's just sad. But generally speaking, 86% of our membership doesn't make the $26,000 a year it takes to get health insurance. That's where we're at. So we're just asking for just reasonable things to be met, reasonable protections.
I want to make sure we get Elliot's voice in here. Okay. Thank you, Tawana, for that. And I hope, we'll continue this conversation in the after chat, because I also want to end on what we can do to help also. So Elliot, welcome. Great to have you here. Tell us what's going on as a strike captain, or what you want to add to this conversation after listening to your colleagues and peers.
Well, you got the brains and the people who are smart. I'm just a muscle. I spent 20 years in the United States Army, so I came to this profession, bookmarked college, and then this is second career. But I think the one thing that since you're doing the intersection of politics and storytelling, it's important to understand that the first time an actor stepped out in Western civilization, stepped out from the crowd, giving one point of view, happened in Greece about 50 years before the creation of democracy and voting for representation and who you voting for leaders. So narrative storytelling in the way that we do it is married to politics. It's married to the idea that people are the critical focal point of storytelling. And that's how, from the very first two people had to share things that they learned, storytelling was how they did it. Now, would you rather sit through a lecture for an hour, sit through a PowerPoint presentation for an hour, or sit through a narrative story that provides the same information and lets you retain it longer? I think we all know the answer to that. And I think on the political side, that's what's happening. The big part for our folks are that this not having studios and not having production facilities here in the Mid-Atlantic, production companies come in and then come and go. And that's but we provide them this, as Catherine said, 5,000 members who work on these productions. That gives us a pretty significant place in the marketplace. But we haven't been able to see each other for 5 years. We had pandemic, and then now the strike. And so much of our work has been to bring people together, rallies, leafleting, information events. We found that's been the connection that our members have had. and really thrived on, and each number grows every time we have an event, and people are connecting, and our union siblings showing up. So that thing that Gabriel talked about different unions coming together, we'll be out there on the line with everybody else when they take the action, just as they have been with us.
Yeah. So I'd like, because we're getting up to the hour and we want to do a focus of our next segment. I really am so glad to have you here. Let's do give everybody a chance for a 30-second wrap up, or if they want, and we can go back to Gabriel and then go around the room.
Well, maybe as a team, we can just go over a couple things that folks can do to support.
Thank you.
I'll just go first. There are a couple places that you can donate to that are helping actors, performers, writers, and people in the entertainment community stay above water, that are providing emergency funds. First is the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. Second is the Entertainment Community Fund. And the third is the Motion Picture and Television Fund. So we can put those links in the chat, but we'll start there. Anyone else can jump in.
Yep, go and want to go back to Catherine, and then we'll go with Tawanda and Elliot.
Sure. Well, first, don't boycott. We don't need you to boycott because we get residuals. If you're active on social media, spread the word. And I'm going to put a link right now. If you want to get your own SAG-AFTRA Strong Strike t-shirt, you can buy it at this shop, and a portion of the proceeds goes to the emergency fund. So that's something to do.
That's really great. Tawanda.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to add also, while we're in strike, we have an interim agreement, which is allowing some of our workers to continue to work. It is not a waiver. The interim agreement are the terms that were set forth in our proposals to the AMPTP that they say were unreasonable. So we have independent producers and whatnot taking part in signing these agreements, saying that, yes, we can actually abide by these rules and pay your actors and performers a reasonable wage. So by participating in those interim agreements, we're showing the AMPTP that what we're asking is truly fair.
Nice, thank you. And let's end with the storyteller. Elliot, like I said, you're such a great looking strike captain. You both are. I could just imagine you guys on the line organizing, but why don't you end it out for your crew today?
Ask you to write your congressman and senator, wherever you're from, and ask them to support HR 2871, which is the Performing Artists Tax Parity Act. It's been on the books since 1986, but it's capped in terms of revenue or individual earnings at $18,000. It hasn't been changed since then. It's still there and available. If we can raise that to $100,000, as the bill calls for, then that gives some relief to us here in the interim, but also makes this a much more viable piece. Senator Warner sponsored this 2 years ago. Nice. He has yet to reintroduce it because we can't get 2 Republicans on board. So if you got a Republican friend senator, Senator Ernst and Senator Cornyn and Senator Murkowski have indicated they're interested. So if we could get you to support that, it'd be great.
That's great.
Yes, Catherine, if I could just jump in with one final thing. You can hire us, because if you have a need for a corporate video or a regional commercial, those contracts are still open and happening, and you can contact the office and get great talent.
That's really great. It's great because I'm listening to all your voices are just wonderful and just wonderful. And we are so grateful for the work you do and make our lives just so much more, so many levels of happiness that you've brought us, and all the entertainment that we just sometimes take for granted. We sit down and we're like, turning something on. So we appreciate your profession, your dedication to that, and good luck with everything. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Give them a round of applause and a round of applause, and let's move on to Fennell Norton and our Power Pack in Williamsburg.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. I'll be glad we'll.
Let's see. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
The applause. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Thank you very much. Okay, let's bring up Monty and Jessica Anderson. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. For those of you who might be just joining us, we're going to spotlight our Power Pack. We've got Senator Monty Mason for Senate District 24, and we got Jessica Anderson from Delegate House District 71. So I'm so happy to get a chance to talk to you both today. Hearing from these guys from these unions tells you the power of collaboration. So let's talk a little bit about the Power Pack. So Senator Mason, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to start with this race that you are in. Let's talk a little bit about what's going really well. So tell us how it's working so far.
Well, our field program is very strong. We are working hard to raise a lot of money. It is a 50-50 district. The governor's going around the state saying that I'm the tip of the spear. They're going to beat me and take control of the state Senate. So we're obviously working super hard to make sure that that doesn't happen. The good thing is we're talking to a lot of new people who are excited to see us because they may not have seen Democrats very much in the past. But it's also difficult because we're talking to a lot of new people. And finding the independents, finding the persuadable people is what our chore has been and what we've been working super hard to do to this point. Feel very positive about where it is. If you overlay the two congressional races from last year on my district, one won by a Democrat, one won by a Republican. We won it by about 800 votes. So it is that close. It will be decided by the hundreds. And that's why we're talking to every single person that we can.
So I'd be really interested to hear with some of these independents and some of these other folks that you're talking to, not Democrats, what are you hearing?
Well, it's great because it's really validated. And Louisa talked about the state budget and our upcoming agreement, or what we are going to see next week. It really is validated what the Senate has held out for, and that is education funding. Listen, at the beginning of this budget, we recognized people were struggling. So we gave some income tax relief. We gave tax rebates. We eliminated the state portion of the grocery tax. That was last year. This year, the House, as a proxy for the governor, wanted to give another $860 million in tax breaks. And Senate Democrats just held firm and said, no, it is time to apply that money to education. And we held out for $870 million in education to support staff, pay raises, bonuses, mental and physical health, reading, learning efforts for reading 4th to 8th grade. And it really has been validated talking to people at the door coming out of the pandemic, understanding the impact it had on our students and on our educational system. And so we felt like we were holding out for the right thing even before we got into mainstream campaign season. And that has only validated our position.
Yeah, so I really want to understand. So as you are talking to your supporters and as you're talking to your the folks who are volunteering for your campaign, how is that message translating so that they are able to be at the door and sort of tell that story?
Just that we need support staff is a great microcosm of it because every school has support staff positions. I was just in an elementary school this week that had 22 students, 9 with special education needs in kindergarten, 1st grade. They had 3 teachers in the classroom, 2 of those support staff. So it's not that the schools haven't been using them or needing them and having them in place. It's just the state hasn't been paying our share of the cost. And so we have $270 million in this budget and in the agreement to fully fund those things for the first place. So it is not only funding education and trying to get it up to where it needs to be, because we know we're a long way from that, but it's focusing on things that the schools are already doing, the needs they already have, and helping pay our share from the state side to make that happen.
Great, thank you. I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, but I want to get to Jessica Anderson. Jess, how are you? I'm so happy to see you.
I'm good.
I know you're a bit new at this, but you've been also doing some really great, cool things, a little bit of innovation. So let's tell the audience a little bit about who you are. And then I want to talk about some of the tactics and strategies that you've been using that are a little different than what people might ordinarily do.
Yeah. So lifelong Virginian, grew up actually in Newport News, which Monty is representing a part of that here in the future. And but lived in this district, Williamsburg, James City County, and New Canaan. I've lived in all sections of this district, 71st, over the last 21 years. I've actually worked in Williamsburg since I was about 14 years old. My first job was Busch Gardens. So, I'm a long-standing resident. I'm a mom of 3 daughters, a stepmom to 2. I still have 2 children here in the public school system. So as Monty's addressing public education, ensuring that our children have quality education, have the resources they need, the funding they need. That's one of the backbones of my conversations at the door as well. Also, proud supporter of reproductive freedom, keeping that accessible, keeping the rule of Roe, the law of the land here in the state of Virginia, and also just kind of speaking to my personal experiences. I've been on the show before, so I know a lot of people have seen it. A lot of people have seen my content because I am kind of a content creator prior to becoming a candidate. Just speaking to the fact that I was a single mom. I did navigate social safety nets. I did see how they were a lot of pitfalls and difficulties for just everyday people that needed those resources, and how easily they could go away overnight. And I've just been able to use my experience, my exposure to other communities through the, online networking to just be able to speak to the issues and offer very common sense, real life solutions that people actually have been really on board with.
Yeah, you're being really gracious and modest because we know that you are a TikTok superstar. So that's pretty cool. And I hope folks will take the information there and follow you. The other really exciting thing is over the weekend, there's going to be a campaign up for postcards for you. And that's going to be really awesome too, because you can target the audiences that you're looking for. So I want to just sort of open it up to both you and Senator Mason to talk about what is it that folks can do? What is it that volunteers can do, most importantly, to support your campaigns? And so, Senator Mason, I'll come back to you.
Sure. I mean, it's the basics. It's blocking and tackling. It's phone calls. It's knocking on doors. It's obviously money. But coming down the stretch, making sure, I was on a forum with Tim Kaine and Bobby Scott the other day, and they made the point that there's so much national noise that we have a hard time in Virginia making sure people know, we got to take it back in 2024. We're like, whoa. No, we have to take it back in 68 days. And right now is the election for all 140 members of the General Assembly. And we make decisions that impact people's lives the most every year. I cast between 800 and 900 votes a year in the state Senate. So you have the choice of making sure that we maintain Democratic control of the state Senate to keep the momentum that we've been going in Virginia, or you turn that over to an extreme Republican who's going to vote 100% the opposite way.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
Jessica?
I mean, I would just kind of piggyback off that. Obviously, I think ground game is critical. I've personally knocked, I think, nearing around 3,000 doors, and I've had some incredible conversations in those doors. And I know that that's what's going to win votes. It's going to win the independent voters. It's going to win even some of those leaning right voters that feel like they've been left behind by a very extreme fraction of their party. And we've seen the partisan politics this past 2 sessions. Very little was getting done, a lot of blocking in committees. We just lost all the momentum that, Monty and so many Democrats saw in the previous Democrat trifecta. And I'd love to see that again in the future. Obviously, the next 2 sessions is going to be about kind of blocking Governor Youngkin and trying to put as much progressive policy out there that is going to serve the people in the best way. But yeah, again, door knocking, obviously postcards, you're doing postcards. We have a postcard program. Eventually we'll be doing some phone calls as well with phone banking and texting. Unfortunately, money, it is the route that we need to go, and just to make voter outreach, mailers, digital ad time, all the things that we need to do to just reach those voters that we can't physically get to, because, I have like 60,000 voters. Monty has more than twice that. There's only one of us. And even with a huge team, which we have great, people under us, it's still not enough to reach every single corner of these districts. So knowing that we have the funds to fuel that, I also noticed there, I am a very competitive district as well. Me and Monty share all of the city of Williamsburg, which is, critical. We have William and Mary college students we got to churn out. We have some voters that don't always show up to the polls in these off-year elections. So making sure they know that there's election, making sure they know what's on the line and what could happen, like don't Florida, Virginia, please. But yeah, I like to point to the fact that this race and where I'm at used to be a 58-42 Republican stronghold. My opponent did not have to do a lot of work to win. It's now a 52-48. And I want to point out, she's never won 58% of the vote. So, you know, she only won 53% in 2019 and 55 last time. So this is very flippable. And I think both of our races are ones to watch and make sure that they happen.
Well, I certainly hope that not hope, because hope is not a strategy, but the collaboration of the power packs together with the grassroots will turn this district blue. So I hope that you guys will have a chance to stay in the after chat. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions and innovative ideas and solutions that the group will want to share and that we'll want to hear from you. Catherine, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you know me, I just want to tell this room, yes, Jessica is going to win this race. And I think if we lean into Monty and Jessica and that power pack down there, we will just create the disruption we need to. So make sure we're going to try to get down there and canvass September 17th. We're thinking about it. You can canvass, knock doors, send postcards, and donate money. And I just love how you both are working together. It's so important. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's that time again. Monty, great to see you. Glad you made it in the room. And I love going down to Williamsburg. So I'll be going down to this week and maybe get to see Jessica and everybody. It's that time again. We need to wrap up. You know, it's never over, is it? Not till Fennell sings or laughs, but we are going to go to the after chat right after I do a few announcements. First of all, I want to thank our guests here today. And I could tell you, I was listening to every word because just to have them in the room, Chelsea Bland here from Clue, also the president, Catherine Clavana of the Metropolitan DC chapter of, it's just so many of these acronyms, the Washington Mid-Atlantic Local of SAG-AFTRA, also Tawanda Underdew. Thank you for being here. You're on the national board at that table, girl. Keep it up. Keep the heat on, as we say. And also Gabriel Kornblue and Elliot Bales. Just wonderful to hear your passion. It's just great when we support unions and the people on the line. So thank you so much to Monty Mason, candidate in Senate District 24, and Jessica Anderson in House District 71. And of course, thank you to everybody that puts together the show. You know, support the show, be a patron, put some money in our cup. If you like what you say here, if you like being here with us, if you enjoy what we do every week, please become a patron. It's a lot of fun to be in this community. So thank you for that. And we're going to run credits. And pay attention because we want you to follow us on social media, and we want you to know that you'll get a recap email with all the links in here. And I just want to say thank you to the crew, and we will see you on the other side.